What's your name and where you from?
So I'm Daniel. I'm from Sutton, but I originally came from Jamaica.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were born and raised in Jamaica, yeah?
Yeah, I came here when I was around 9 years old.
What are your earliest memories of growing up in Jamaica?
Oh gosh. So for me, I grew up in a Protestant Christian family. So I remember every Saturday, without fail, we have to go to church. But I was always like one of those mischievous kids. And like because of that, I never really, when it came to like Bible studies or Sunday school, I was not understanding anything. But other than that, though, I think what I remember the most was like the beauty of it all there. They didn't really have many like high-rise buildings there. It's all like nature as far as you can see. But yeah, I had some fun memories of that place. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say made you mischievous?
I think from a young child, I always had like this like anti-status quo type of thing, because I could just see that everyone is like being uniform about like going to church and being prim proper in a certain way. But for me, I don't know. I just never really I never really what's the word, conform to that. From a young age. But as well, I think it was a case of attention seeking as well as a kid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that was the case?
I think it's the case because when I was younger, my grandparents who raised me essentially, they were like, they weren't really like nurturing. They were more of a case of like, okay, we're going to raise you as the same way like we were raised, as means through survival, rather than like, oh, hey Dan, I love you, da 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 da. So I think it was that sort of thing, like, oh, if I act badly or I act cheeky, you will see me,
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about what life was like at your home.
Okay, so I grew up with my grandparents pretty much, and they did their job as guardians, but I don't remember them really being like loving. But they showed their love through action. Like always made sure I was fed. Had like nice clothes, had some video games and whatnot. But I felt that I was a bit isolated from other families, other friends, because in Jamaica it's quite dangerous. You can't just really walk out and then go to someone's house or walk into like random bush somewhere. Like anything could really happen because there's no cameras. So I understand that sense of overcaring. But yeah, I tried to make the best of what I could, to be honest, as a kid.
Yeah. So talk to me about the transition that you made from Jamaica now
to over
living
here.
in the UK.
Oh gosh. So in my first year here, I found it very difficult because one, I used to be bullied for my accent and I couldn't really understand what people were saying a lot of the time. So my first year here was terrible. So I kind of like reclused into like the internet or TV. But when I went to secondary school for the first time, I was like, wait, I can really like reinvent myself here, which was quite fun. But yeah, the transition wasn't the smoothest at the start, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What would you say some of the hardest things about that was?
I think it's because I didn't really have the people skills at that time. I was quite shy, very shy kid. So when it came to making friends, I feel like I couldn't just be like, oh, you have the similar interests. It's more of a case of, oh, if you find me funny, then we can be friends. And it was quite difficult at the start, but in stride, being around different minorities and from people from different like immigrant backgrounds, I was like, oh wait, we share a similar story here. So that's how I later related to people.
Yeah. Would you say that shyness ever impacted the way that you maybe opened up about certain situations that you were going through?
Oh, 100%. I think from a young child, I had this like deeper anxiety and fear about what people perceived me, and it started from like when I was speaking like in patois, truly. Like I think it started from there. But when it came to later in life about opening up about certain things to my parents especially, I kind of internalized that, and people would see this mask of me having it all together, but really, I didn't, I was always stressing about the next day, not really particularly thinking about the long-term future, but like thinking about the next day of school, like, oh, I have this period, I'm gonna be with this teacher, oh, this person's in this class, I wonder how we're gonna interact with each other, stuff like that.
Is there a particular situation that you went through that maybe you wish you opened up a little bit more about?
Yeah, actually. So when I was younger, I got held at gunpoint, when this was before I left. But like because I feel like because the community is quite small, people tend to know who's got money or who doesn't have money.
And this is in Jamaica, right?
Yeah. And people would know that, oh, my mom's from England, she comes from England, so she must have money, right? So them knowing that I'm her child, I got caught up in, I was walking home one time and I got caught up in that. And it was quite scary. And I think that really affected me But I didn't think so for a long time. It was like quite a repressed thing. But having been through therapy as of recent and trying to go through certain things in the past, I realized that, oh yeah, that was not cool at all.
Would you say that some of the fear and anxiety that you were talking about earlier stemmed from that moment as well?
Yeah. There's actually quite a few moments in life whereby like the fear and anxiety of opening up comes from as well. Because and I feel like with a lot of immigrant families, the emotional intelligence isn't really there from the parents, because as people from like generational trauma, you don't really get to live and understand and learn about yourself. Every day is survival, you know? So yeah, I think that sense of anxiety about opening up also passed down from me and my parents, from my parents and my grandparents as well, because none of us really open up about anything.
Talk to me a little bit more about that situation. What was the outcome?
So pretty much he saw that I had nothing. And yeah, he was like, don't tell anybody. And those words echo in my head, you know, don't tell anybody. And I thought, you know what? I think I've only told about like 5 people in my life about that, you know? And yeah, because I always used to think about, wait, what would happen if I did tell somebody, you know? Like, would he hear back about that? Like, would he find me again? And like, yeah, that was a pretty scary moment.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there was a few situations that you've been through where you have experienced fear and anxiety. Which one would you say stands out the most?
What stands out the most? You know what? This is when it's like my later teens. This is the forefront of my head, right? But it's when I told my parents that I was having dark thoughts, and they didn't really care as much, you know. And I used to think that if your parents they don't really care or show that they care about these certain moments in time, like who else would care? So you tend to feel that like anxiety and fear about opening up to other people, because your mother's meant to be the one who's like unconditionally loves you, understands you. But if they can't do that, who else will, you know? So yeah.
Would you say that mental health is something that you've struggled to cope with then?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I've been diagnosed with well, it's called EUPD, so it's emotionally unstable personality disorder, which is better known as BPD. And I've always thought I had it, for years actually. But when I bring it up to my parents or bring it up to friends, it'd all be like, oh, you don't have it. Like, or when I go to the GPs, I'd be diagnosed with anxiety. And yeah, I sort of lost faith for a minute in NHS about these sort of things, you know. But yeah, from a very young age, like my mental health has never been like stable per se.
Yeah.
And I always felt out of place with people, in the sense that, I don't know, like the cognitive connection with people about like how people feel about certain things, or like for me, as I've said before, like growing up in a survival mode, like you tend to not really contextualize your emotions as much. So yeah, I just never really understood my own emotions, so I couldn't understand other people's emotions. So I always felt out of place anywhere I went, really.
Yeah. How does your condition impact you on a day-to-day?
Oh gosh, so for me, it's pretty much like lots of mood swings on a day-to-day basis. So I can wake up like really depressed, have really terrible thoughts and spiral. Or I can have these euphoric moments, or I can then again just feel empty, rather than depressed, but like empty. You know, not really want to do anything, and I lack motivation. And it happens multiple times throughout the day, and it's quite exhausting, to be quite frank with you. But with therapy and like self-work, like shadow work, like CBT and DBT, it's getting better to manage those mood swings, you know. But it tends to really affect like my relationships with people, like my friends or relationships per se.
Yeah. So would you say in terms of relationships, it's almost like maybe they're seeing a side of you that you don't necessarily want to present to them?
Yes, exactly. There's yeah. Like when I get triggered per se, when it comes to like, I have this like deep fear of abandonment, because I didn't grow up with my parents, you know. And my mom would come over like 2 times within the year. So she'd come in summer and then she'd come in December, but she'd leave every time. And this happened for like 6 years. And because of that, like I had this like deeper fear of abandonment. So whenever someone leaves or I'm thinking things are about to end, I just switch. And for a long time I thought that was just my instinct. But in reality, and contextualizing all of it, yeah, it comes from a deeper fear of abandonment. And it shows a side of myself that I don't particularly like. And yeah. It's affected my relationships quite a bit actually. So yeah.
Yeah. I know earlier you spoke about how how you think about the way people perceive you gives you fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
So how do you think people perceive you now?
Honestly, a lot of the time I think it's like more negative per se, and it's always just like rumination about, hey, if you saw the real me underneath all of the terrible stuff I went through, then you'd be like, oh, he's actually quite sweet. However, though, I've had to realize and understand that, okay, cool, I have annoyed people or pushed people away or hurt them, and I can't really dwell in like the victim complex of like, oh yeah, I'm just traumatized. Like, no. So I've learned to understand that, okay, cool, what's done is done, really. But ultimately speaking, though, I try to walk out and be like, oh, you take me as I am, you know. So I try and be on my best behavior, or like walk with confidence, etc., etc.